Our guest today is a lifelong Chicagoan. In 1998, he joined the Chicago public school system, leading the Magnet School program, where he has achieved some dramatic improvements. And then 2 years later, he took over as Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public Schools. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome back to the City Club of Chicago the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Public School System, Arne Duncan. Arne? It's all yours. Remember to tell him to come up to the mic. And there's some water for you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much, Jay, for a very, very kind introduction. Before I get started, there are a few other people I want to acknowledge. He mentioned Michael Scott, but Michael's been just an extraordinary partner for me this year. You sort of get to know one another through good times and bad. We've made some very, very tough decisions this year, and Michael's been right there every step of the way. Before I started, I talked to people like Randy Merberg and Forrest Claypool and David Doig, and they just said, you're going to be so lucky to have him come over from the parks to the schools, and they've been exactly right. So, Michael, thanks so much for all your support this year. And if I could just ask, we have a number of our staff people here from our management team. Could all of our Chicago Public School employees please stand for 1 second? I've tried very hard all year, and this is something I've failed totally at, is to get any media to be interested in covering the depth of talent and the strength of our management team. We have some media here, so I'd love for people to think about doing a story on that. And people know me know I don't brag or say these things lightly, but I'm absolutely convinced that we have the best management team that the Chicago Public Schools has ever seen. These people are working extraordinarily hard, are committed to seeing our students fulfill their tremendous potential. And I'm very, very lucky to have them. So thanks to everyone for all their hard work. And then finally, if my father could please stand, Starkey Duncan. I'm so proud to have you here, and you've been just a fantastic role model and inspiration to me throughout my life. I'd never be in this position without your support, so thanks so much for everything. Appreciate it. Thanks to all of you for coming here today, and thank you for the tremendous support that everyone here has provided the Chicago Public Schools. While the people in the trenches, teachers, principals, parents, and staff all work hard every day to improve our schools, so much of our progress is directly due to the commitment of people like you, people outside the school system, our business leaders, academics, elected officials, and of course, our taxpayers. Our task has been made easier because so many people in Chicago share the view that education is critical to the future of the city, as well as to our children. Everyone who matters in the city already believes education is important, in large part because the mayor is such an outspoken champion of public education. Mayor Daley has made improving education here in Chicago, as we all know, an absolutely personal crusade. He's invited everyone to hold him accountable for the quality of education in our city, and in turn, he holds us accountable. He has made education a priority not just for the public schools, but for the parks, the libraries, the police, CHA, the business community, the university community, our taxpayers, and all of Chicago. So I want to begin today by thanking Mayor Daley for his profound commitment to the school children of Chicago. His leadership simply makes it possible for us to succeed. And because he has rallied all of us behind the cause of education, he has made my job easier as well. Essentially, I'm here today to take a school system that has already demonstrated the capacity to improve, even with limited funding, a low-income population, and outdated facilities, and go to the next level by making it work for every child in every school in the city. When you look back over the last 14 years, our school system has gone through two major waves of reform. The first wave, as many of you know, started in 1998 with the creation of local school councils. This was basically about decentralization and local control, greater parental and community involvement. The election of Mayor Daley in 1989 marked the end of an era of labor acrimony. that produced 9 teacher strikes in the previous 19 years. We have not had a strike since, as you know, and I'm absolutely committed to maintaining and strengthening our partnership with the unions. Union President Debbie Lynch has been a strong and thoughtful voice for her constituency. She comes right out of the classroom. She was an outstanding 8th grade teacher, and I have so much personal respect for her. While we may not always agree, we will always find common cause when it comes to the children in our classrooms around the city. So I want to thank Debbie and the Teachers Union for their ongoing commitment to improving our schools. The second wave of school reform began in 1995 when the mayor took direct control of the system. He brought in new management that produced greater financial stability, accountability, and a commitment to improving performance in the classroom. Social promotions ended, standards rose, and schools adopted a back-to-basics curriculum. Summer school was required for struggling students. School safety programs were strengthened, and more than $2 billion in capital investments help improve the learning environment and relieve overcrowding, even while our enrollment has continued to increase every single year. Ultimately, by holding ourselves accountable, Chicago Public Schools have become a national model for reform. And I want to publicly thank Paul Vallis and Gary Chico for the tremendous leadership they provided the city, and just importantly to me, their tremendous commitment to helping me be successful. They've been wonderful sources of support throughout this year. Today, the Chicago Public Schools have reached a new plateau. After 7 years of mayoral control, we have made steady year-to-year progress. Today, test scores, attendance, and enrollment are all at their highest level in years. And let me just give you a few numbers to tell the story. The percentage of elementary students reading at national norms rose from 26% to 43%. Elementary math scores are up from 31% to 47%. High school reading scores are up from 21% to 36%. And I'm especially pleased that this year, 3 out of 4 elementary and high schools improved their performance over the previous school year. And at the 8th grade level, we're actually beating national standards in both reading and math. And think about that. For a district where 85% of the students are in poverty, more than half our 8th graders are beating national norms. It's a remarkable accomplishment. Last year, our 8th graders, 54% met national reading standards and 58% met national standards in math. And I should point out that these 8th graders were in 2nd grade when the mayor took control in 1995. So clearly those efforts have paid off. By every measure, we're improving across the board, but it's simply not nearly enough. The reality is we still have a 40% dropout rate, and less than half our kids overall are meeting standards. We still have too many teachers who are not upgrading their skills, and some who are not certified. We still have some principals who have not created a culture of excellence in their schools and have failed to get parents more involved. And we still have a system that doesn't always provide the support needed from above to improve failing schools. We're proud of the fact that fully 1/3 of our school children here in Chicago, 145,000 students, attend schools of their choice. That means they're in magnet or gifted programs or other programs outside their neighborhood school. But we still have too many struggling kids who are lost and too many kids in the middle who we ignore. That's what we have to change. And as we all know, the mayor's commitment is to every single child in every school. We have to make it work on the north side, and the south side, on the west side, in Humboldt Park, in a little village, in high-income communities and low-income communities. When I started as CEO just over a year ago, I once again tried to put the focus back in the classroom. We launched our comprehensive reading initiative last year because reading is the foundation for all learning. Reading helps children in every other subject. It's the most important indicator of academic achievement and carries the heaviest weight in our promotion policy. We put reading specialists into 114 of our lowest performing schools to try and drive that culture of literacy at the local school level. We worked to create classroom libraries in every single kindergarten through third grade classroom in Chicago so that we can surround our children with great books from the earliest ages. And when you get in a position like this, you often reflect on your background and your upbringing. I was so fortunate to grow up in a household with my father and mother surrounded with great books and being read to every night. And as we know, not every child is so lucky to have that opportunity. As best we can, we want to replicate that opportunity in our Chicago public schools. And finally, we did a simple thing. We increased time on task. We mandated 2 hours of reading and writing for every child in every grade in every school across Chicago. And because of those different things, we've seen dramatic improvements in our reading test scores. With our partners at the Park District and the public libraries, we made reading part of after-school tutoring and recreation programs as well. We also put in place new promotion standards, adjusted to reflect new national norms for the first time in more than a decade. They also reflect other criteria, such as grades and attendance and discipline. We not only continue to raise the bar, but we're expanding the ways that we help all of our children get over that bar. For example, this year we created an extra 50,000 slots so that children could attend high-quality after-school programs. This past summer, we had a record number of students, 120,000 students enrolled in summer school. And that number includes 15,000 high school freshmen who needed help getting past that first year and getting adjusted to high school. That's never happened before, and we're convinced this may significantly help us reduce the dropout rate in the years ahead. Between preschool, after school, and summer school programs, public education in Chicago is becoming an all-day, year-round, cradle-to-college opportunity. And that's what it should be. A child's brain, as we know, is always active, and if they're given enough opportunities, they will find something that motivates them to succeed. Each child has a different motivator. For me, it was sports. For another child, it might be arts or music, might be science or math. For so many students, it's simply reading books. Our challenge is to create a school system that flushes out and feeds those interests for every child in every school, not just the few who are bright enough to get into our gifted programs, and not just for those who are lucky enough to have a dedicated and cohesive family at home. Our other major area of focus this past year has been teaching excellence. Common sense tells you that the better the teacher, the more likely our students will learn. Our strategy begins with a recruitment effort that must rival that of any Fortune 500 company anywhere in the country. I tell future teachers in colleges everywhere that the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity in education today is in large urban school districts. And no one is doing more than Chicago to meet that challenge. So that if you want to be a part of history, this is the place to live and to teach. Over the past year, we have worked hard to attract great teachers with creative efforts like our alternative certification program. It has brought in hundreds of new teachers in other fields and with other degrees. We began an early hiring program that Peggy Davis, our Chief of Staff, led as part of our Human Capital Initiative that makes us competitive with suburban school districts. We recruit more than ever from the top universities across the country. And in 2 weeks, we're thrilled that we're going to be opening the doors to our new National Teachers Academy on Cermak Road. It will be a state-of-the-art elementary school where young teachers will be teaching students side by side with master teachers. It's the first teacher training academy of its kind in America. It'll help us build a core of new teachers committed to educational excellence. We're not only doing more to recruit the best and brightest, we're also doing a lot more to keep them here. And I say all the time that I think, in fact, teacher retention is probably even more important than teacher recruitment. Too many of our good teachers come to the Chicago public schools wanting to make a difference, but feel overwhelmed, feel they're not listened to, feel unsupported, they become cynical, and they leave after a couple of years. So we've worked hard to dramatically improve our mentoring and induction programs. And we are working to create a career ladder that gives committed teachers opportunities to advance in their careers, something that's never before existed here in Chicago. I want to make Chicago the mecca for young people who are passionate about public education and committed to making a difference in our students' lives. As we consider all that we have accomplished and look ahead, Chicago is now poised to begin what we think will be the third wave of school reform. The third wave is focused even more directly on raising performance to the next level, system-wide. Chicago is already the national model for school reform. We need to become the national model for educational excellence. The third wave is defined by a clear understanding of what works and what doesn't work for our school children. Today, for example, we know how a good principal can take a failing school and turn it around in just a few years. We're so lucky to have Barbara Easton-Watkins. Barbara, if you can raise your hand. We're so lucky to have someone like Barbara Easton-Watkins as our Chief Education Officer. She took a school in the heart of the Woodlawn community, south side of Chicago, McCosh Elementary, and turned that school around not overnight, but over time, doubling test scores. She got parents involved in the school. She worked to create a culture in which both teachers and students were constantly learning together, constantly trying to improve their skills. And she made McCosh an anchor in that community. Barbara knows that when we have consistency in our instructional programs, more of our children reach higher levels of achievement as they move from grade to grade. And she knows that children need to start learning earlier in life, and that we must use time outside the traditional classroom's hours much more effectively. That's why we're investing so much in preschool, after school, and summer school. We need to put all of our knowledge and experience of the last 14 years to work for every child in every school. The bright kids, the ones who are struggling, and those in the middle. Generals at war often talk about acceptable levels of loss, but as educators, we simply don't have that luxury. Our schools must educate every child and help him fulfill his vast academic and social potential. This school year, Board President Michael Scott and I will be launching a new education plan called Every Child, Every School. It was developed over the past year with input from more than 300 academics, educators, parents, community leaders, and principals. We're still finalizing the plan, but essentially, Every Child, Every School will outline exactly what schools should be doing to help all of our children learn. It has specific goals and specific ways to achieve those goals. It sets clear standards for schools and gives us a way to hold everyone accountable, looking at things like parental involvement and professional development activity that's meaningful and long-term, as well as simple test scores and grades. Much of what is in the plan has already been announced, and all of it is common sense. It flows directly from the work the mayor and his leadership team have accomplished over the last 7 years. Every Child, Every School builds upon our reading initiative with more reading specialists and up to 3 hours a day of reading time for those children who need additional support. It includes 1,000 new Head Start slots, which the mayor announced recently, and several thousand new slots in after-school programming. We're focusing specifically at the high school level, those students who often don't have those opportunities. And it encourages and rewards meaningful professional development among faculty. We all know that if you treat teachers like professionals, and Debbie Lynch reminds us all the time, if you treat teachers like professionals, they'll be more professional. It includes more training for teachers and principals and assistant principals. That began this summer with a massive effort. Over 3,000 teachers and principals going back to school this summer to receive intensive training in our literacy framework. Our plan gives principals the support they need to improve and focuses their efforts on their most important responsibility, and that's to be instructional leaders. So often our principals are burdened with too much paperwork, filling out forms, buried in a desk behind paperwork. We have to get them out from behind those desks, out into the hallways, and most importantly, out into classrooms to making sure that the students in their schools are getting every day the education they need and deserve. This plan brings all of our best practices together in one place so that every principal and teacher in the system knows what works and that they can make it work in their schools, just as Barbara did at McCosh. School children are not guinea pigs, and as we know, they only have one shot at an education. We have a responsibility to make it as good as possible right now by applying these best practices and by continuing to be innovative in our approaches. This year, for example, we're breaking up 3 of our large, struggling inner-city high schools and creating 5 smaller schools with a much more personalized learning environment. Each school will have its own curriculum. Each school will be a school of choice. We will continue to support charter schools, and we'll also ask the state legislature to authorize new charters for us. We will create more community schools with extended hours that will serve as neighborhood anchors in communities across the city. The Renaissance Initiative will continue to target our most troubled schools for top-to-bottom renewal. We closed 3 schools this June. 2 of them will reopen next year with a new curriculum, new leadership, and most importantly, a new game plan. We'll be closely monitoring the new pilot choice programs we created under the new federal No Child Left Behind Act. With this program, up to 2,500 students in 50 underachieving schools can transfer to a better school nearby. Our gifted, magnet, and international baccalaureate programs will expand to serve more students. Our school safety programs will expand this year as we recruit more parents and businesses for school patrols in our Safe Havens program. Our capital program continues in high gear with over $500 million in new investments scheduled to begin this year. By the end of 2003, our total capital investments over 7 years will top $3 billion. And Tim Martin has been our COO from day one, has done just an extraordinary job of managing that program. More important, it will bring us closer to the day when every child in every school in Chicago has a modern, up-to-date facility in which to learn and will go to school in classrooms that are not overcrowded. To help relieve overcrowding short term, this year we're converting 5 former Catholic schools on the northwest and southwest sides of the city where we're densely overcrowded to create new public schools, schools like our Gates Initiative that will be schools of choice. All of these new programs and new approaches to improving our schools have helped us reach this significant stage of progress. 10 years ago, no one would have believed it possible that over half our 8th graders would exceed national standards in both reading and math, as they did this year. And for a district with an 85% poverty level, that is an extraordinary accomplishment. I'm so proud of our teachers, parents, principals, and students for their hard work. No one would have believed that the 2 top high schools and the 2 top elementary schools in the state would be right here in Chicago, Chicago Public Schools. And no one would have believed that Austin High School, the heart of Chicago's west side, would have an officially recognized international baccalaureate program that was designed not for West Siders, but for the children of diplomats in Geneva, Switzerland. These victories serve as proof of our success, but we have to go further to reach our goal of becoming the best urban school district in America. This is no time to rest on our laurels. In every community, in every school that I visit, I sense a hunger among teachers, parents, principals, and kids to go to that next level. We know what it takes. We know how to get there. But we still need the resources, and those of you in the room can be instrumental to us in helping us get there. First of all, I need you to become my partner by adopting a school and investing your time and energy to help it improve. All 600 of our schools need strong partners, people like Gary Comer from Land's End. Gary's gone back to his alma mater, his elementary school he graduated from. Paul Revere, in the heart of the Englewood community, has invested many, many hours and blood, sweat, and tears over the past couple of years, has brought Paul Revere off of probation and made it a strong school. Venture capitalist Mike Koldyke is running our first contract school on the north side. And this is an education model I'm very, very interested in. I think has great promise for the system. And Don Randall, Don's here in the University of Chicago, is running one of our finest charter schools in the North Kenwood, Oakland community on the south side of the city. I need all of you to rally behind the cause of education. Please carry our message into every boardroom, every business meeting, and every conversation. I'd like to see all business leaders get just as excited about their adopted schools as they traditionally do about their quarterly profits. The other way you can support the funding is by helping us, can help our schools is by helping us secure more funding. And you've heard this from Michael and I probably 1,000 times this year. You're probably sick of it, but I want to say it one more time. Illinois ranks 48th in the nation in the contributions it makes to K-12 education. The national average is approximately 51%. We receive less than a third of our money from the state. It's a record that's both embarrassing and it's shameful. We need you to tell our legislators in Springfield that it is unacceptable to leave our schools so dramatically underfunded. They used to justify this neglect by saying that more funding for Chicago schools was a waste of money, was perhaps throwing good money after bad. but they can't say that anymore. Our fiscal belt has never been tighter. They have no excuse, and they simply have a responsibility to meet. Everyone knows that if we want to break the cycle of poverty, education's the key. If we want to keep the middle class in Chicago, education's the key. If we want to build a strong economic future for the city, education's the key. Now, more than ever, we need to dedicate our collective civic will to helping us meet national standards system-wide and become the best education system in America. Quite simply put, that is the goal of this third wave of reform, and anything less is not acceptable. We have a unique opportunity to make education the crowning achievement for this generation of leadership. So today, I challenge all of us in this room to dare to believe that Chicago, already a global symbol of industry, of finance, and culture, will one day be the first major American city to give every child in every school the quality education they need, the quality education they deserve, and the education that will inspire them to greatness. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's time now for questions of the superintendent. Any questions at all? Okay, I'll start the first one. You called upon the legislature to enact more responsible legislation to meet its obligation to support schools. Will that include, in your estimation, a tax increase?
No, sir. In all seriousness, to me, it's simply a matter of priorities. That here in Illinois, again, less than a third of the funding for public education comes from the state. And somehow the great state of Mississippi has figured out a much higher percent. The great state of Arkansas has figured out a much higher percent. I think here in Illinois, we just have to readjust our priorities, do some soul searching, and decide we can continue to invest in children and make the investment early on in life, and invest more than $4,600 per student. Or we'll just simply continue to build more jails at approximately $40,000 per cell down the road. So it's a matter of invest now or pay later.
And now we'll have a paid... Now we have the first question from a person who will give his own commercial briefly, Mr. Berkowitz.
Thanks, Tom. Jeff Berkowitz. I'll skip the commercial. Mr. Duncan knows about my program, as do many here. I hope. But thanks for the plug. Let me ask you, Mr. Duncan, if you've mentioned taking the Chicago public schools to another level, and you've certainly described the significant accomplishments of your predecessor, Mr. Vallis, and what you've done over the last year. Let me see if I can suggest very briefly a supplemental plan to take it to the next level to help your plan. And that would be, you mentioned, the Chicago Tribune mentioned yesterday that only 7% of the kids who are eligible to transfer under the federal program, No Child Left Behind, chose to do so. And you've talked about, and they mentioned that in the article, that you've talked about your choice already for a third of the kids. But the article also points out that the kids could only go 3 miles. And they could only go...
You're going to make this a question, aren't you, Mr. Berkowitz? Aren't you going to say, isn't that right?
Can't rush genius, Tom. Okay. Kids can only go within 3 miles, and many people, State Board of Education would say, many of the choices they have are to go from one low-performing school to another low-performing school. Why not give these kids some choice, supplement your public school choice with private school choice, give them the $10,000 purchasing power that is spent per year per kid, let them go to the private school within the 3 miles or outside the 3 miles, persuade the Illinois legislature to do that. You believe in competition as a former basketball player. That would only make the Chicago public schools stronger. Right?
That's a great...
Got to do that for Tom.
That's a couple different questions and statements there, and I'll do my best to answer them. As you know, I'm a huge believer in choice. We've tried to dramatically increase the range of options within the Chicago public schools. We're opening 10 new schools this year, 5 new high schools, as part of our Gates Initiative, 5 new elementary schools in our archdiocesan facilities. All these schools will be schools of choice. No teachers are assigned there, no students are assigned there. They have to go out and compete in the marketplace and bring students in. If we had $10,000 per kid, it'd be something I'd be very interested in looking at. The reality of it is we have about $4,500, $4,600 per child here in the Chicago Public Schools. And we'd hate to see those resources we already have as a state a very, very dismal record of funding. Until there's some adequate funding behind that, I don't see how we take resources out of the Chicago Public Schools and put them elsewhere.
One thing, $4.6 billion is your budget, 430,000 students. That's about $10,000 per kid.
Okay, next question. We're not going to turn this into a colloquy. Jeff, you can hire your own platform and have the thing, but very interesting. Next, questions, please, from the audience. Is there someone else coming to the floor? Yes.
Elizabeth Grady, a retired teacher, director, administrator who is
Would you
now...
speak up, please, ma'am?
My name is Elizabeth Grady. I am retired from the Chicago Public Schools as director of 3 medical programs in the medical department. I am very proud of the fact that you are planning a teacher training academy. And I congratulate you on that because teachers really are the basis for all these wonderful programs that you have foreseen. Could you tell me what your plan is for recruiting teachers? Because I know there's a drastic shortage in Chicago and around the country.
I'll just repeat the question. She was very pleased that we're opening the National Teachers Academy this year and wants to know how we're going to recruit teachers. A couple things. We're extraordinarily excited about the National Teachers Academy because we've never had our own farm system to develop our own talent. It's so interesting. Any business, any sports team, any organization, they have a way of bringing from within, tapping into that depth of talent, that potential, and helping them become great, whether it's corporate leaders or great athletes or whatever it might be. This is the first time that we're going to have a farm system here in Chicago where we can have young, aspiring teachers work day in and day out, side by side with master teachers, learning the best and brightest, learning from the best and brightest, so that in the following year they can go out into other schools and make a difference in our students' lives. So this is simply a starting point for us. We're doing it at the National Teachers Academy. Mike Koldyk's group, the Academy for Urban School Leadership, is doing the same thing on the north side. So we're going to have a couple models going, and we're going to look to replicate this expansively in the years ahead. In terms of how we recruit, we are really very, very serious about our mission, I stated in my speech, of making Chicago the Mecca for young people across the country who want to make a difference in students' lives. And we recognize it's a competitive environment, and we're looking to get every competitive advantage we can. And we truly believe that Chicago is an extraordinary place to live. We think it can be an extraordinary place in which to teach, and we're going out to the elite universities across the country, as well as focusing on the Midwest, to bring the best and brightest here. We started one thing this summer, our Summer Fellows program, where we recruited a smaller number, pilot program, approximately 30 undergraduates who are going to be some of the best future teachers from around the country. They came in from elite universities. They spent the summer living at the University of Chicago's dorms and teaching every day in our summer school. They had fantastic experiences. They're going to go back to their college dorms, go back to their classes around education, and they've become our ambassadors. They're going to help to spread the word. They want to come back to Chicago, and we hope they're going to bring their classmates and friends back to Chicago as well. So while we have to constantly get better at the recruitment side, I think we have such a good story to tell. There's such an opportunity to do good work here in Chicago. We feel we just have to get out there and let people know the tremendous opportunity they have if they come here to this city.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Ted Whitmer, Director of Development with CARC in Chicago. Mr. Duncan, I'd like to commend you on the fine work you've done so far. And I understand that you just gave the major overpoints of your Every Child, Every School plan. But I didn't hear anything about children with disabilities, specifically developmental disabilities. As CPS continues to serve children with more pronounced needs, I was wondering, in that plan, what specific steps you've outlined to provide more effective special education services, and especially transition services for the young adults 16 to 21 who are approaching the end of educational programs and looking at a 75% unemployment rate for adults with severe disabilities.
Right. The question is, what are we doing particularly to help our children with special needs, special disabilities to be successful? A couple things. First of all, we're very pleased as part of the President Bush's No Child Left Behind Act, we are absolutely accountable for the results and how those students are improving every single year. And traditionally, special education students weren't sort of factored into our test equations. And now, every year, every school, that's going to be one of the top indicators of that school's performance. And we think that's a very, very good thing. We have a very strong special education department led by Sue Gam, who's committed to helping these students be extraordinarily successful. Where we are absolutely struggling in terms of the teacher shortage is specifically around special education. It's a major issue that we don't have easy answers for. We would need easily another 330, 340 special education teachers tomorrow if we could get them. It's been very, very interesting. The last 25 years, obviously the numbers of special education students we have has increased fairly significantly. At the same time, the number of people coming out of our Illinois colleges and universities majoring in special education has dropped 65% in the last 25 years. So there's declining supply from the university side and increasing demand on our side. So one thing we're working very hard on, I touched on a little bit earlier, is our alternative certification program. And we're trying to create one. There's never been one here in Chicago, bringing in people from other careers, mid-career changers who want to focus on special education. We're working very hard to put that in place so we can bring a new pool of talent, new pool of resources to the Chicago Public Schools.
Thank you.
My name is Leighton Olson. I'm a director of the Midwest Technology Access Group that's got a very strong interest in teens and technology programs. In 2 weeks, 120,000 manufacturing leaders from around the world will be in town for the International Manufacturing Technology Show, and there'll be a student summit of as many as 3,000 high school students. Parts of your education to career program will be there, and I was wanting to know if you will be there to encourage students and parents and teachers who can come, not just in buses, but registered online, and perhaps you and the mayor can help invite all the students and teachers to McCormick Place during that 4th to the 11th of September time.
I'd be happy to get more information on that. And the question really refers to what are we doing with our education to career programs. And I think some of what we've done has been strong, but quite frankly, we're really looking to upgrade what's happening, the opportunity we're providing our students. We've done an internal audit of all of our education to careers programs. It's been very, very interesting, the findings. We really want to make sure that the opportunities and education we're providing is relevant to today's workforce. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced some of the things we were doing would help us in the, as we go forward. Some of the stuff was more, 1960s, 1970s type preparation. So we're looking to actually revamp that dramatically. We're recruiting, as we speak now, nationally to bring in a new director to lead our education to careers effort. And while, again, there have been some very positive things, we see a chance to really take our programming to the next level in the next year or two in that area.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Duncan. My name is Teresa Garate Serafini, and I'm a faculty member at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I'm going to bring you back to special ed for a minute. I was a former bilingual special ed teacher in Chicago, McCullough, Humboldt Park, so very familiar with that area. I actually have two questions. One is related to the need, of course, for more special ed teachers in the system. You talked a little bit about all the efforts that CPS is involved in recruiting new teachers. What kind of initiatives are in place to help the teachers that are right now serving kids with disabilities who are not certified and really are in need of additional training on site? And my other question is related to physical accessibility and global accessibility of programs for students in the Chicago Public Schools. I know that there's been great strides made towards making all the buildings physically accessible, with still some more room for improvement, but talking about global accessibility, where accessibility is not always physical as a ramp or a door, but more of program accessibility, not just for students, but parents who may have disabilities who want to access different schools and programs.
Right. The first question is, how do we help to get these teachers certified? And actually, Barbara Easton-Watkins has worked very hard to develop relationships with 4 or 5 local universities where teachers, whether it's special ed or not, who aren't certified, we're sending them back to school. We're actually helping to pay for it, in some cases paying for it 100%, so that all of our teachers become fully certified in the next year. As you may know, with the new No Child Left Behind Act, we're mandated to have all of our teachers certified and highly qualified by the school year 05-06. We've actually set a much higher standard for ourselves here in Chicago. One of the first things when Michael and I came on board was we passed a policy where our teachers have 2 years in which to get certified. Historically, there was this temporary certification category that I think in the worst case, a teacher was in that category for 26 years. And so we've set a 2-year window. We're working very hard to help teachers get in. We actually had almost 1,000 teachers become certified this school year, and they're either going to do it in the next year or they'll be out. So we feel very good about that. Tim Martin has worked extraordinarily hard, again, as a significant piece of the capital program of making our schools accessible both to students and parents. I talked a lot about the $3 billion of work that we did, but I really need to also add, to really get our schools to the point where they need to be, we need approximately another $2 billion over the next 5 to 6 years to really make our schools, to upgrade them, to have them be state-of-the-art facilities, and to be educating students in environments that are absolutely conducive to helping them fulfill their potential. So we have a long way to go, and that's one of the areas where we need your support, working with the state to try and continue to get some funding so that our capital program can continue. We've made extraordinary progress. If you go in any neighborhood in Chicago, schools have never looked better. Campus parks have never, we've never had more green space for our students, but we're probably 50 to 60% of the job is done. We have another literally $2 billion to go.
Thank you. I lied. I have one more question. Is that okay? One more question. Some of the work that we do in my program at UIC also focuses on the outcomes after school. Is CPS involved? I know there's a national longitudinal transition study for kids specifically with disabilities, but is CPS currently involved in any research that looks at what graduates, regardless of whether they're from special ed or general ed, are engaged in, years after they leave the school system?
That's a great question. We have not historically had any data on even the percent of our students from any high school that went on to college. It's sort of mind-boggling. So the first time this year, we've created new school report cards, and one of our major indicators of success for all of our high schools will be the percent of students who go on to some form of higher education. We're collecting baseline data this year. Whatever it is, we're going to look to dramatically increase those numbers over time. And I've been very, very public in this, that we want the goal of every single Chicago Public School graduate to be some form of higher education. 4-year universities, 2-year junior colleges, trade and vocational training, whatever it might be. K to 12 simply has to be a starting point in our children's education journey, not an ending point. And there was a time in which students could graduate from the public schools and go get a job at the stockyards or steel mills. Again, those days are, have been gone for 30, 40 years. And so we're really putting emphasis on that every single student has to have some form of higher education as their aspiration, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable each year to improve those numbers.
Thank you.
Herb Stone, first I want to congratulate you for the work you're doing and the excellent talk that you gave today. You kept talking about poverty and now you're talking about higher education. I was wondering what is being done in the public schools now to help individuals that have the incentive to study very hard, to get ahead, to do the best they can, to get into college or other kind of higher education. I'm particularly interested in scholarships, I'm particularly interested in economic aid, and what is being done and what are you thinking about?
Right. It's a really important question. As you know, we're approximately a 90% minority district. And so many of our students, if we're saying college truly is the aspiration, so many of our students are going to be first generation, be the first ones in their families to go on to college. And actually, before I joined the Board of Education for 6 years, I ran a program, and I have a dream program. That was specifically the goal. We took 46th graders, promised that we would pay for their college education if they made it through high school. Then myself and my sister and our team worked for those 6 years every day to help students get to the point where they could take advantage of that opportunity. What's very interesting is there are significant college scholarships out there for minority students, and particularly minority students who don't have much money. People don't understand that. It seems inaccessible. We ended up, for our students going to college, actually spending very little on the tuition. The real goal was getting them to that point. There are many different things. It's summer enrichment programs. It's continuing to push our students. It's much better after-school programming. It's ACT preparation, SAT preparation. It's working. We worked with families where our students were absolutely going to be successful in college, but quite frankly, their parents, their mothers were a little bit scared of them leaving home, moving out of the city. And so it's not just educating our children, it's really taking a family approach to this so that our students can be successful. And we have wonderful stories all over the city. We have children who have gone on to the University of Chicago. There's a young man from Juarez High School heart of the inner city, very little money, his family, sophomore at Harvard University, doing very well. We have extraordinary students. We want to provide mentors, want to provide role models, want to provide enriched academic programming. We talked about the International Baccalaureate program, very, very tough curriculum, that we're putting that in neighborhood schools, not in our magnet schools. And so we need to provide a great academic framework for our students, but also the social and emotional and family support so those who are ready can really take that leap.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Duncan. Penny Lundquist, Golden Apple Foundation. You alluded in your speech to principals who are not quite the school leaders that they need to be. And I'm wondering if you can speak about any plans for heightened principal accountability or new approaches to principal evaluation.
It's a great question. Sorry, the question is, what are we doing to heighten principal, I guess, both training and also accountability? And there are a couple different things we're doing. One major thing that we'll be rolling out literally in the next week or so is we've redesigned our regions. As you know, we divided our city into 6 regions. And we had one region education officer who was in theory accountable for working with and helping to support up to 115 different principals. That's obviously an impossible task. So we're breaking these regions up significantly so there are 20, 25, 30 schools in a region, and then putting an area instruction officer in place who can be working with those principals on a daily basis. It's a manageable number. You can build some relationships. We're making this on a neighborhood framework so that feeder elementary school principals are also working with that high school, so there's real continuity of curriculum and instruction there. So we're creating a framework where we have a chance to be successful there. Part of the reason principals haven't been instructional leaders, quite frankly, though, is not their lack of commitment or desire to do that. It's because we've inundated them with paperwork, and we've made their jobs very, very difficult. So what we're going to do is nothing's going to go out to principals unless it passes Barbara Easton-Walken's desk. And so,
And she knows.
And Barbara's this nice and kind of person, as you know. She's a tough cookie as well. And so I think it's going to make people think twice. And, it's all our different departments sort of operated independently. We're going to, centralize this in one place. And so, again, we've got to reduce the principal's paperwork and create the opportunity and the time so they can get out in those classrooms and make a difference with those teachers and students. And then finally, we've had our largest professional development programming for principals ever this summer. Bev Tunney's here from the Principals Association. She's been just an extraordinary partner and source of support to me this past year. And she said, unsolicited, Bev, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but she says the best professional development we've ever done for principals this summer. So we're committed to helping them continue to improve their skills. We're absolutely changing the structure, so there'll be a manageable number of schools that one person can support. And then we have to continue to reduce paperwork so the principals can get out from behind their desks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ellen McGee. I'm with Blackwell Consulting. Just to follow up on her question, I know one of the challenges that the local school councils have is that they have to select and evaluate principals. And I was wondering, as a former local school council chair, I knew that was a challenge for me to sometimes work with parents who've never had to evaluate anyone, or, and so I just wondered what types of programs you have now for local school councils to help them understand, how they go about, not to tell them how to do it, but the best way to do that type of thing.
The question is, what are we doing to better educate our local school council members on probably their most important job, which is both selecting and then evaluating the principals, who's going to be the education leader of their building. We're actually dramatically trying to revamp now, as we speak, our Office of School and Community Relations that focuses on these issues. And historically, so much of our training of LSC members is focused on governance issues. And there's been this tension with some of the reform groups. We've made tremendous progress in that area this year. We really moved past that, working in a much better collaborative manner. We're focusing our training now not on governance and legal issues and that kind of thing, but really on how do LSCs become leaders of that community who are helping to drive the education process. So we're changing all of our training. We're actually been bringing LSC members to train them in our literacy initiative and our framework. We're also trying to provide LSC members with much better data, not just one test number, but a range of different indicators: attendance rates, dropout rates, graduation rates, how much are schools gaining each year. I'm a big believer in incremental change. Again, we saw 75% of our schools improve this year. We're thrilled with that. And really getting schools monitoring, your scores might not be where they want to be, but are you moving in the right direction? So giving LSC members better information, a more comprehensive set of data so they'll better understand where their school is, and frankly where their school fits relative to the rest of the city. One of the things that stunned me, quite frankly, when we closed the 3 schools that we closed earlier this year for chronic, year after year of chronic horrible performance, where 86, 87% of students weren't reading at grade level. And we said it wasn't the students' fault. It was our fault as educators, our fault as parents, our fault as community leaders. Some parents, when I went out and Micah went out and Barb went out and talked, they said, we didn't know. We didn't know. It stunned me, and it blew me away, and it was really, really sad. And so we have to get that information out there. We have to be very public about it. We have to change how we train, again, getting away from the governance and legal issues and really getting into how do we make this a great educational institution for our kids.
Thank you.